at the pro-am, you know, the little allié situation, but as players kind of respawn, there is an opportunity to kind of press them. They come out of the, it's very clear where they're kind of coming back into the game, right? We have this big rift effect, Vivid, and suddenly you've got someone dropping out. When you have players that can laser beam, I mean, dude, I can't even see that. That's a pixel to me. But to them, it's so clear, and their aim is so deadly.
Yeah, I really liked this game from Rapid and Code. We were kind of talking about, hey, is the end game going to be a little bit different? Are they going to be up, going contesting for the higher gun there? Yeah, their end game was definitely a little bit different. We didn't see them necessarily going for the higher gun like we did in game number 1. But the early game was also completely different, right? Going ahead and pressuring towards some of those eliminations and picking up. We saw 6 right there, and the game had barely even started. Love to see that for the duo.
Yeah, that's definitely helping them as far as the leaderboard is considered. You know, they've gone 12th place and 7th place now, but with 12 eliminations, they're actually 2nd place right now for elims. And with it being 3 points per elimination, that is definitely helping them. They just got to find that placement to kind of balance things out.
I wanted to highlight here as well, Lawrence and Batman Joe in 9th place. The kind of swingy nature of the competition, right? So their first game, 17th place with only 2 elims, but this game here, a 5th place with 8 eliminations, and now they're inside the top 10. I feel like this is gonna come down to the wire, but guys, I feel like we do need these kind of pop-off performances, right? If I can reload, let's just send it.
Oh, Zeke, man. Zeke's like, yeah, man, go ahead. I can float down from the sky and then just give Rapid a bunch of these eliminations like just happened that game. Zeke, man, that's not how it works, bro.
Yeah, no, Zeke, let's get into reload right now. Let's play. I want to see how you like to play your games right now after that.
Yeah, we'll just hop in right now. You know, we'll become the 21th duo, but it'll be 3 of us. And Vivid can carry us to a win. Guys, we are getting ready to jump back into more of the action. This is game 3 of 8. So, casters, over to you.
I, for one, would love to see Zeke play some reload. I don't know about you, Monster. Maybe even put him in one of these lobbies. But the action continues to top. Who would have thought game 2 had moments that were better than game 1?
Yeah, I mean, look, for some, you're walking on a sunny side of the street. For others, it's a cool, brisk breeze, man. It's not looking good. But hey, Reload has told us one thing. Every game can go any which way. The pendulum can swing if you can just find your momentum in that early game and lock someone out, farm those points early.
Yeah, with it being an 8-game series, consistency truly is key. Yes, you might have to pick up eliminations at the end of the game, but you're seeing outside of maybe the 32-point lead for first, how close the leaderboard actually is. One game can bump you from 10th to 5th, and then from there, you can probably bump into the top 2 spot, because that's exactly what everybody is playing for today. That top 2 will get you to the finals later on this year.
Yeah, and it becomes a game of mental stress at this point. Can you stay locked in? And, you know, look away from Peterbot and Pollo. You know, they have a lot of points, but game 3 is here. Let's jump on this battle bus.
It might be a little too early to start switching up your game plan, but depending on where you're at on the leaderboard, you might have to start to thinking, hey, what is the best way to start to close that gap? You know, depending on whether you're 50 points down, how do I get it to 40 after this game? How do I get it to 30? And just kind of chip away at that deficit until you're good, as King once again starting this contested fight off. Last game, it was Iamzo who went down first. This game, it is going to be Josh.
Yeah, King and Jargu have only found their success in the first set of eliminations. You know, making it to endgame has been fairly difficult for this team and many others. Yamzo, Josh, of course, are not going to let that deter them, though, from having a good game. Cold and Rapid continue to push the press here over at the Steamy Stacks. We know there's a llama to the north. We'll see if they end up finding it, as they do tend to stay in the storm no matter what. For Reg and Mopping here, they seem to be doing just fine with their side of the map.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like I spoke about, you know, for game 1, triple contested, regular contested, and then uncontested. But as the day goes on, you're seeing teams realize, hey, maybe elsewhere there's not the loot that we'd hope. Maybe it's not the best fight in positioning. So you're seeing them inching their way back on over to Steamy Stacks. We'll check how it works out for them later. But it does like looking at the feed, Sharkman, regular again from Colt, and Iamzo. 3 more players just kind of going down. Luckily for them, they still have their teammates to kind of reboot them. But as Zeke and Vivid and Kelly broke down, it's almost like a beacon. You see the rift from the sky, you have to drop down, and with the mobility that's in this game, you more than likely will get chased.
That is definitely certain. Getting back over to King and Jargo, they just seem to have continued. I think they might have sent Yamzo back to the lobby. We don't see them nearby, but they do have a nice set of eliminations. Seem to have the drop themselves at the moment.
Yeah, I see Josh, and I was looking just all around. Where is Yamzo at? Maybe he got out safe already. Peterbot show continues over towards Slurpee. You see Higgs making his appearance over on that side of the map, and it becomes more and more contested, even if not at the drop, right after players are able to get a little bit of a loadout and feel comfortable starting to fight. As Peterbot, instead of chasing one, he goes after who's closer. Maybe no mobility, but the shockwave comes out from Higgs. Good shots coming out from Pete, but not enough to get the down yet. But with the last crash pad, he's going to continue on the chase. But Higgs has mobility of his own. It's the cat and dog. Shockwave versus crash pads. Can they catch up? Clicks tries to close the distance to lend a helping hand, but Peterbot is not backing off.
Oh my gosh, there goes another shockwave sending them. This time Clicks is low on HP as well. This is just starting to crumble beneath them at the moment, and the pressure here from Boyo as well. It's not just Peterbot. Boyo's already in the mix, but it's a 2v1 onto Higgs right now. Higgs still putting up a great fight. Finds wonderful tags onto Boyo, but it's Boyo who gets the siphon as well. They just have more than enough to go ahead and bounce back. So this is looking like a repeat of that major two where Clicks is kind of off in the distance and Peterbot and Boyo on the other side. Or really just Peterbot, but you know, they're thinking about that fight once again.
Yep. Higgs having to kind of drop back down. That's kind of where they land right out of the gate, so they do know where some of that loot left over is. It's just basically having to restart fresh here when it comes to your materials and getting all of your utility, whether it's the heals, the grapples, or the shockwaves. So from scratch from them, but with Higgs coming back into the game along with Click staying alive, they're going to have a chance in this game still. Acorn and Bolts coming fresh off of that win. You see they already got one early game elimination and kind of sticking to their plan. Acorn and Bolts usually play out every single one of their early games as slow as possible. If the zone pulls away, that's a blessing for them because they can use the launch pads. They can use the shockwaves with the Flowberry Fizz to get there safely versus everybody else rotating together.
Yeah, it's definitely a duo that is dependent on playing for placement points. It's the reason they're up at the top of the standings right now. But hey, this is only game 3, and realistically, if you tune out at any time, by the time you tune back in, these games are going by very, very fast. For Cold and Rapid right now, 70 points, holding them up. 2 eliminations this game, so pacing relatively decent here, still at the steamy stacks.
And this is where I talk about the difference in eliminations, because to start this game, Cold and Rapid were in 8th place. With those eliminations, they moved up to 7th. They're 1 more point away from Scare and Osid on that leaderboard. And this is kind of what I'm going to be trying to look at once we get to Game 7, Game 8. I'm going to become a mathematician, trying to break it down to figure out who actually qualifies at the end of the day. And we're seeing how different everybody's playing it around the map. If you're out of zone, it almost seems like you have a little bit more freedom.
Peterbot, Boyo, making sure no one's in their vicinity is going to have freedom to do anything with the loot that they want to make sure they secure here. But for them, it's really picking up the lead, right? Opening and widening that gap between themselves and everyone else. 2 elims right now. Well, that's uncommon for Peterbot. Actually loses track of the opponent he was chasing, and process of elimination says, all right, you got to be in here, buddy.
And even though he's looking for that elim, I almost think it's worth it for them to be able to farm that, but I think he saw the foot as he jumped over. It's a little pixel there. Peterbot's able to see, and then you kind of look at his loadout. 3 different slurp juices. If you end up in a prolonged fight against Peterbot, it almost will feel like you have to eliminate him 3 different times in a singular fight. That's going to be scary once he gets into his groove.
Yeah, you wouldn't think someone could just build like a juggernaut loadout in a game mode like this one, but he is just going unpunished right now in the lobby. Yamzo and Josh, though, just trying to make do with what Cold and company have left behind here. And it seems to be playing out pretty well for them so far. Take a look at the replay. Well, they did end up giving Cold that extra elimination here at the vending machine, so that's going to be a welcomed set of points for them. Rituals, Agers here, just kind of hanging out right now, just biding their time now as things are starting to settle down. Again, as we get closer to zone 5 is where the pacing has almost converts, right? We start looking at things a little differently.
Yeah, that risk reward scenario kind of comes into play. Early game, you can get away with a lot, but as the zone closes, it's getting harder and harder. As Vlex gets taken out, Ritual and Agers kind of triangulate that position to get one less player off their side of the map. But just judging by the fall and loot, it almost seems like he was fresh rebooted right out of the sky. Light is staying alive, so even though they may not know exactly where Light is positioned, they know he's just right there somewhere. As Vlex continues to spawn, you see in the rift open up, and it's not just Ritual and Agers he has to worry about, it's so many other teams.
Yeah, this is the... like the guy just, you know, walking down the street, whistling, you know, hey, we look over there, there's someone. Yep, exactly. Your spot's just getting given up. Either way, Peterbot, Boyo back to it at the Slippery Saw. Another team moving on in to their general location. A marker comes out, so Boyo's getting a bit of a fight here potentially. See if Peterbot manages to jump out and meet him there. That clicks. I think it's Clicks and Higgs again.
Yeah, they do land nearby. We already saw them. Because it's uncontested by Peterbot and Poyo, not only them, but other teams as well want to steal away some of that loot. There's Aloe. You saw him kind of get farmed out of the sky a little bit. Luckily for him, he is able to drop. You see in the med kit, that's going to be much needed. The vending machine, he cashes in on some of that gold. He realizes, hey, we might need to take our time. We might need to find a little bit more for our loadout, the materials that we're missing. So I like the play, you know, not getting down on themselves and not making any desperate purchases this early into game 3.
Shadow Virgo kind of slept on so far. They're at 3rd place coming into this. No elims just yet here. Zone 5 creeping on us. What are they trying to do right now at the Dirty Docks? Okay, so they pretty much have a bit of another, I would say a favorable zone, right? It's just outside the Dirty Docks here. Game 1 obviously finished here, and that played out very well for them. We'll see what they can do with Game 3 here. They're trying to keep a low profile. They're definitely looking to play for placement points once again. It's what's working best for them so far.
Yeah, when you get zone, it's one of those things where community looks at it. Even you and I, or analysts probably look at it. These are like must-win games when you get the zone on your side of the map, especially in a game mode like this in Reload where anything can happen at a moment's notice. We jump on board Acorn and Bolts. We saw a lot of their slow rotations throughout the first couple of games. This time around, 5th zone. They're already making it there early, and now they have decisions depending on what mobility they actually want to use. The zone is not too far away. They could one-hop this with a crash pad, but their strategy so far in the 2 previous games is the launch pad with the Flowberry Fizz.
Yeah, we'll see what they end up doing here. There goes the crash pad, so they've made the quick decision. Seems like this is already a decision in the making. Kanata Arc follows suit as well. They find themselves to the front. Clicks and Higgs back on the other side as well. Just playing that low ground, keeping out of the line of sights here. This is a nice clean rotate for them as well.
I think that's the important differences when you kind of look at a situation, and you think a lot of these situations are the same, but you're noticing some teams, when you're this close to zone, are going to use a shockwave. They're going to use a crash pad. Others will try to walk in and utilize that mobility later if they need it. They try to bring it with them farther and farther into these games. That's exactly what you see Clicks and Higgs is doing. They could one-shock it, safely make it indoor zone, maybe risk getting tagged up a little bit, but they're using other people's rotations, other people's builds that are already there as a safe way to find their way in.
Yeah, I do like that. I didn't even think that was going to be an option at that point, but good comms and good calls by them put themselves in a stronger position, and it doesn't cost them any materials, so definitely favorable. Here we have it, zone 6 now, starting to work its way and progress through. Kanata are completely farming out this building, turning it inside now, trying to just get back in the game. Notice that, you know, their material count is not the hottest here, considering we're right into the end, but still, things could be a lot worse for them.
Yeah, and kind of take note about Ark and his kind of rise to the scene last year, winning one major, close to winning a next with Sauco in school on NA West. He goes into the global championship. You see him on Aussie stream 1v1ing and dominating almost everybody. I think this is his first actual big final on the Central with Kanata, trying to show that, hey, you took the chance in me, I'm really going to make it worth it. And while other people took chances, Paper's doing the same thing. Rezi, a relatively newer newer player to the scene, and honestly, looking through heats, it was looking very, very bleak for them, almost not qualifying. But game 8 of their heats, they not only qualified, but it came away of a victory royale monster, showing that they do have the blueprint already.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just those small moments of greatness that give you hope, right? Especially in your duo. You guys are new. You got to work a lot out. A lot of these teams have known each other for long periods of times, right? They're friends, but when you have someone like Rezi, let's just say it's maybe a little bit more new to the community. There's a lot to be desired there and a lot to work on. So we'll see what they can keep doing as they find their moments. But Bolts and Acorn, very much consistent duo here. They seem to have figured things out. We talked about synergy amongst duos, you know. This is not a team we've seen play with one another in the last couple of years. So we'll see how that ends up continuing to develop through. We jump on over to Peterbot in Pollo. Back like they never left. We've used that phrase so many times as we start to look at how this team manages to perform time in and time out.
Yep, already 3 eliminations. Seeing the Flowberry Fizz again, they're just kind of making sure they have a diverse amount of mobility from shockwaves, crash pads, and you know as well as I do, the Flowberry Fizz has that utility, the low grab effect. You kind of jump around even without actual mobility items to try to close distances. As Clix and Higgs kind of peek through, waiting for the next zone. As it does pop, it pulls all the way towards the south. It's not a max pull for Clix and Higgs by any means, but they still have a few teams in front of them on this rotation that they have to watch out for.
Yeah, definitely got to continue to keep their eyes peeled here as we start to take a panning look at what's going on right now. Everyone's kind of hanging out. Acorn's team going for the Medmis deep in the zone right there, just trying to buy themselves some time before they make a big rotate and possibly cost themselves anything. Shockwaves, of course, this is the time to use them. Joe and Agers on their way possibly to high ground, but no, they just opt to give that one up. So notice that's what really good teams will do. Most of them will decide, not a shot, I'm playing high ground first. Not in this lobby, not in this type of course, mobility meta with the shockwaves that play.
Yeah, we know Acorn and Bolts have that launch pad. I knew I saw somebody fly by at the corner of my screen, and I was thinking, was that Acorn and Bolts? Then I saw them down below. Somebody is stealing the strategies, the bag of tricks. It's cold and rapid this time around, using that launch pad to try to go ahead and dodge everything that happens down below. But notice where Rapid landed. He didn't go down below. He's trying to hold as much of the high ground as possible. As Curve goes down to Peterbot, him and Pollo make quick work of him and get that refresh that they need to keep themselves strong.
Yeah, here it is. One more team falls here shortly, and that'll be placement points earned to the lobby. Very crucial moments coming up ahead. And notice, even though no one was on high ground, Cold and Rapid seem to have learned their lesson. They're like, all right, we're just boxing up, man. We're not going to be doing anything too risky, not just yet. Clix and Higgs, on the other hand, have to play for some elims here. This is a game where they have essentially dudded out on earning points so far, but we are, again, in this final stretch here. Peterbot says, you know what? You don't want it. I do. He goes straight to the top. King and Jargu try to get themselves out of that render distance. Like we continue to talk about, teams will do that. And look, they're gone, but not for long. What goes up must come down. And they're forced an early descent.
Yeah, and I like the awareness, knowing the difference between the launch pads and the shockwaves, knowing they don't need to protect themselves. Cold and Rapid, they're almost non-existent. They're stuck in that mess that is down below. Kanata and Arc continue to drop down layers. They don't want to become that focus of the high ground. We've seen it game after game after game. Whoever's that second height usually is the threat, and they get all of that pressure. So for Kanata and Arc, they're just trying to fall underneath the radar. They get to the front side of the zone, but look how stacked it is. Everybody's being displaced, including Lawrence, that goes down to Bolts. A much-needed elimination, because you look at him taking those ticks to the zone that no longer matter, because he gets the HP and ends up with a whole nother box. I don't know if that was Arc or Kanata, but they almost got sent packing.
This is crazy. Bolts is just scrambling right there. He's like, I don't even know if this is my med miss. We gotta go. And he is burning through those shockwaves just to stay in the game like any exceptional player would. Clix and Higgs, though, fall before they even get to find their footing to the hands of Agers there. Jumping over to Jason Oliveira. Low ground here on the side of the mountain. This is a desperate spot to be in. They got to work their way out. Peterbot, Pollo just opting to stay up top. No one contesting them at all as we jump down to low ground. A complete different scenario at hand here. Agers and Ritual are comfortable, and they have 7 Elans there, Jacob.
Yeah, because of that terrain on the ground, there's not even players really rotating right above them. Paper and Rezi are the ones that have all that action. That's why they move out towards the right, trying to dodge it all. But Peterbot and Boyo laughing ear to ear, just sending everybody to clash with one
someone
another.
load
Pressuring
up.
the top side of the boxes,
Stop
burning
Peterbot.
through their materials. And look how far they are away from everybody else on that high ground. Not a singular shockwave without the Flowberry Fizz. Can't even reach heights that high. But Cold and Rapid, they continue to get sprayed. Cold runs out of builds, ends up on the offensive, going after Bolts, lands a shot, but unable to get the elimination. Getting put in the blender as Rapid falls, Cold follows. It's his former teammate Acorn that gets the elimination.
Yeah, somehow Acorn's still in this game. Peterbot and Boyo opt to give up a little bit of that height there as they put themselves into harm's way, and Paper goes up. He's gonna send them falling down, but not before he gets knocked. Rezi still in the fight. There goes the Siphon for Peterbot now, and they maintain control of the situation. Back to 8
And that's why
eliminations,
no one
working
load
their
up.
way towards another potential victory royale here. Acorn goes up and tries to send them flying with shockwaves there.
Yeah, that was a good play for Acorn, but they saw that one coming from a mile away. And luckily for him as well, as he's elevated. He's not on that ultimate low ground while all this is going down. Peterbot drops and uses the first slurp, gets into the miss grenade, drops Poyo the other slurp, and goes right back on towards zone, realizing, hey, I have to disrupt everything that's going down on the inside. Ritual goes down to the zone itself. Peterbot still flopping around, gets the elimination on Agers. That's going to be a wipe, but it comes at a cost. Poyo goes down. Now it's a 1v1 Peterbot versus Acorn, and he gets dropped from above. No chance at survival as Peterbot clutches up his second game of the day.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought Acorn was gonna have a little bit more of a fighting chance, but the limited mats and the low HP turns the tide.
I
in
said
Peterbot's
Peterbot
favor as
back.
They win another game here today. The third game is now complete there. Zeke, what do you think about that one?
What do I think, MDF? Listen, I already sound the red alert earlier, okay? Peterbot, Poyo, we allowed them to reconnect. We allowed them to form a duo yet again, and they just continue to put on a masterclass. I cannot believe it, and I love to think back on that first game and how they got the 10 elim victory out. The context was different, right? Back then, Peterbot had the grappler. This time, he doesn't, Vivid, and yet still has enough time to drop a shock for Poyo, to still go in, to still take the fight down low, and walk away with a win. I mean, dude, Peterbot is just different. He is just built different.
Yeah, I mean, they just seemingly always know exactly what they need to do. Absolutely incredible stuff there, right? You saw them. They had the high ground. They were very, very willing to kind of give it up. We'll talk about that in a moment here, but look at this already. Total points, 220, a huge game 3 for the duo. Absolutely incredible stuff. But yeah, again, kind of returning to that higher ground, I do want to go ahead and say that my favorite point in this game was when the shockwaves in that final zone started to fly up, right? Everybody started to kind of use them to try to go up, make some sort of a last ditch effort play. Peterbot and Poyo did something incredible. They actually shockwaved themselves out into the storm, and then knowing that they had a med miss grenade to go ahead and use, go ahead and reset, make sure they're not in all of that mess, and then rejoin the fight, gave them that best chance to go ahead and win this game. And obviously you have Peterbot left in a 1v1 situation. Who's going to win that 90% of the time? The man himself.
I mean, there's no one else that could have done that besides Peterbot and Poyo. To effectively lose, what, like 130, 140 white heals just to be able to reposition themselves in the end game and to then go for the win there. Peterbot didn't have full health in that final moment there as a solo player. And still, it didn't matter for him because he knew he was going to get the eliminations. He positioned himself so well where the low two teams were fighting each other. He was able to get that refresh, get that elim, and then the rest is history.
I mean, only Peterbot, am I right? Only Peterbot. I'm glad to see these guys join at the hip once again because, man, Poyo he just creates so much space and opportunity and confidence in Peterbot. I love to see it. Now, of course, more things did happen. First, a break. When we come back, more from the RES
Okay,
Cinnamon.
Peterbot already have 2 other board. Peterbot already made lane and the team Z out for 8. Fun.
220, Acorn and Bolts on 163, and then Age's Ritual 113. Okay, so 4 of my top 5 are in there right now. We're seeing Clicks and Higgs step up. We're looking good. We're looking good. Paper Resi, though, good stuff. Paper Resi in 4th. Whoa.
hard to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights sound bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow. I'm gonna make it. No, forget it. The crown you want is fitted. Take shots, don't miss it. If you miss, you gon' regret it. Before you crawl, know I'm running it out.
What's going on, Fortnite fam? Welcome back to the Reload Elite Series, game number 3. Once again, Peterbot Pollo, 10 eliminations, 230 points. Oh, man. Let's dissect what else we saw, right? Because I'm sure as we move through the rest of the show, we'll probably end up talking about Peterbot and Pollo more. So let's give some highlights where they're due. Acorn and Bolts. Man, oh, man. Showing up big here in that game. Again, you know, maybe Peterbot Pollo are starting to pull too far away, but if anyone can keep up, I gotta think it's Acorn and Bolts.
I mean, Acorn and Bolts, right, their first game of the day. Started a little slow there in 8th place, but after that, second and third games, it's been a win and a second place. And the cool thing about this for me is that they've been completely different in terms of how they've actually played the end game. We saw in their win, they played the high ground, they went out into the storm, they did this cool little play, and then in game number 3 here, they were actually playing the low ground, right? Looking for some of those eliminations to keep their refreshes going. And that's what I really, really like to see. Acorn, of course, we know him, one of the best IGLs in the game, paired up with a fragger, it just always works.
And it's not just a fragger. We've been watching Bolts since back when it was Bryce and Bolts, and you know, a lot of eyes were on that duo. They were kind of the new shining duo a few years ago. And to see Bolts continuing to just climb up and to increase his ability and to join up, like you said, with one of the best IGLs in the game, well, that is why they're currently sitting in second place. But I am already starting to see quite a separation from first and second to the rest of our lobby. And of course, that is the 2 teams that are going to be making their way to the EWC later on. Agers and Ritual, though, that big jump up, that does go to show that there's still opportunity for many of our teams to jump up into those top 2 spots.
Yeah, right. I mean, even in that last game, Agers and Ritual got themselves a 3rd place with 10 eliminations, right? These swings, they can't happen, and we do have 8 games, right? Like, we need to kind of continue to fire on all cylinders. We need to try and get as many points as we can, and then at the end of those 8 games, we can kind of see where the cards fall, right? But right now, you know, Vivid, we need to kick things into high gear. We're about to start game number 4. And so I like to see that now Agers Ritual, they're like, hey, this is our game. We're alive. We're still in this.
Yeah, I mean, incredible game from the duo here. Controlling the low ground for the entirety of the game. This is kind of what Ellie was talking about, expecting to see from the likes of Higgs. But the other side of things is actually Ritual and Agers kind of claiming a lot of that low ground down there. But I already mentioned it, 9 placements jumping up the leaderboard there. Huge game for them.
I mean, honestly, I kind of like this difference between Agers and Ritual with Acorn and Bolts. I think they both kind of represent the same duo. You have these very intelligent players in Acorn and Ritual, and then you have the fragging prowess. But Agers is definitely a veteran and a long-time competitor. So Ritual and Agers together, I think, has a lot of potential.
Let's keep going down this right. I want to go to 5th, Cold and Rapid. Another 5th place with 3 eliminations, right? Like, hey, it's maybe not 24 eliminations, but the placements, we just try to find ourselves a footing, right? We need to build toward this consistency. And I'll admit, look, Reload, it's hard to do that sometimes, right? But we need to start kind of kicking ourselves into high gear. And this is Cold we're talking about, right? Rapid as well. I have confidence.
Yeah, just kind of keeping an eye on this duo after game number 1, where they did try to play for that high ground. They did get it, but because of everybody that was kind of going for it, they fell a little bit short, right? Picked up 12th place. And ever since then, they've been progressively getting better throughout those games. I still would really like them to see that, try that high ground again, try to go ahead and claim it, because we've actually seen now that it is possible. They just got to go ahead and give it another try.
Maybe they knew that it was Peterbot and Pollo up on high ground, and they knew that there was no effort in trying to go for that high steal. And looking at that in game right there, they just didn't have the material either to really go for it. So yeah, I agree. I'd like to see them kind of in like a little bit of a different in game situation, maybe with just a little bit more material, and then going for that high ground again, like what we saw in game number 1.
I wanted to also kind of go back to the lobby list real fast and highlight 4th place, Paper and Resi. So out of them, first game 4th, then a 10th, then a 4th place again. We're kind of lacking on the eliminations, but listen, the consistency of placement is there, right? So now we just have to look to find those eliminations, and then I think we're set, right, Vivid?
How does Paper keep getting away with it, man? This guy like unretires from the game every couple of like 4 months and just comes back and qualifies for a final like this with somebody who a lot of us who have never heard of before, right? He just constantly finds talent in the Fortnite scene, brings them up to speed and then qualifies for events like this. It is always incredible to see how well he does in these types of situations.
Honestly, I would love for this duo to stick together for the remaining finals that we have. I think that there's a lot of potential between the two of them, and it's Paper. He's a longtime veteran. If anyone's going to be able to kind of learn reload and learn the meta, it might be him.
I love it. Okay, guys, almost at that halfway point. Game number 4 is ready. So find your seats on the bus. Casters, take it away.
That's right. Game number 4 is almost here. We're approaching that rough halfway mark, and there has been so much going down here. But one thing's for certain, the leaderboards don't lie there, Jacob. Things are looking good for the boys up top.
Yeah, consistency really is key, and that's what our top 2 have separated themselves. It was a 32-point lead over first and second. That has stretched, but so has second place lead over the rest of the pack. And I wouldn't want to wait until the second half of the tournament. I think this all starts right here. So if you're Paper and Rezi, if you're Agers and Ritual, if you're Cold and Rapid, now is the time to pick up that pace.
Yeah, it does make you wonder what is going to be the difference maker. How can you find yourself in a situation to excel ahead and still somehow slow down, maybe even Peterbot and Pollo, or do you just forget first and say, hey, I want that other qual spot? Like, that is what I'm fighting for. Well, we'll just have to find out as game number 4 is here.
The games do continue. Game 4 is the important game before the halfway point, and you've really got to look at that leaderboard and reflect on what's going right, what's going wrong, and how to find that success. See Paper and Rezi, a triple contested Dirty Docks, and they're performing that well. This contested fight, King and Jargu have been winning it more times than not necessarily wiping Josh and Iamzo, but pushing them back, getting eliminations, and basically getting most of the loot out of the booming base.
Yeah, they're doing a good job here, definitely slowing down Iamzo's kind of momentum, right? Not really allowing them to get too situated, and it's been fairly, I'd say, even back and forth between the two as far as who's earned what on points. As the games continue to progress, though, one thing seems to be more and more clear. We need to avoid Slurpy Swamp, and Peterbot and Pollo now no longer have anyone here at the moment, and this is their drop to do what they will with.
Yeah, you can almost see him preparing the launch pad up above. Let me just get the loadout I need, maybe some extra materials. And you know Peterbot's going to be on the lurk, on the hunt, trying to find those early game eliminations. Clicks and Higgs, I say that loosely because Higgs is already went elsewhere. You see him trying to move back in, finding eliminations of his own. It was actually Arc that he did take down.
Damn,
Arc freshly off the reboot. Him and Kanata having a little speed bump in their game early on.
Yeah, nice find there, and Arc seems to be the one who's down time and time again now, at least from the last 2 games performances. Take a look at the replay there. Look at that, just completely caught off guard there. And Higgs did manage to put a full kit together relatively quickly, so I do think it makes sense that he's caught all these players off by surprise, and then follows up with Lawrence too. So before we even left the Slurpy Swamp, he was already working on his second elimination.
Hey, they started this game roughly 8 points down of 8th place, which is Josh and Iamzo. With those 2 eliminations, they're trying to close the gap. Luckily, Iamzo was able to get one. It was a trade because Higgs, again, once it did struck, taking down Iamzo before you can actually clean it up. But you're going to see how these strats are changing as the game goes on. More and more players are willing to take that risk, send their teammate elsewhere, try to find those eliminations. And once Zone 4, once Zone 5 hits, that's when they start playing closer together again.
This little play right here from Peterbot. He's just watching what's going down there, seeing if he had an opportunity to open up. Nothing big reveals itself, so off he goes, and that could have been a nice little hunting rifle shot, but let's see it. He also finds Lawrence, so it was that a pickaxe, little damage in there just to go ahead and add the salt to the wound.
All right, stick it towards their drop. They know they have a lot of extra barrels. You're seeing 7 shockwaves in the inventory of Clicks. I feel like he's the one that's trying to stay alive. We've seen Higgs already get aggressive early on, so he's just maybe trying to keep that in the back of his mind. I might need all of this rotation just in case Higgs does go down, but you've seen it's already working out. They have 4 eliminations early on as a team, 3 of them on Higgs due to that strategy. And you see him elsewhere, away from Clicks on the map, again, looking for these important eliminations if they want to close the gap.
Here it is, Peterbot just sticking to it. Catches Lowen the first time, comes back, picks him up again. That's Lawrence third elimination, unfortunately, this game, just falling victim to getting recycled for points right now. Cold and Rapid over at the Steamy Stacks. Okay, so this is the first time they're going to have a lot of time to work with, as the zone is favoring the northern side. The west there. Pigs and clicks, though. Oh, big headshot there on the Yamzo. Add that to the reels.
Yeah, and I got to imagine that's got to be frustrating. Now Josh is just getting jumped on by Higgs. This could be a big way to kind of stop the tempo. Remember, they're neck and neck on that leaderboard. Does look like Yamzo did get back into the game, though. So for Josh, buying time is no longer needed. It's about surviving, trying to stay alive, so you don't both have to go on the hunt for loot. But Josh cannot take on the 1v2 against Clicks and Higgs. They do get the elimination, but at least he bought enough time to get a chance back in.
What a different game, though. 7 eliminations here. That is massive here. I mean, I was going to say 7 times 3 is 21 points worth already. Hold up, though. Forget the math. Peterbot, Boyo have more to deal with right now. They have Sharkman in sight. Boyo now has officially arrived here. Sharkman trying to squeeze out what help he could. He gets caught in the cone, has to get out. The edits come through. It's just not going to be enough. What can you do there? Peterbot secures the elim, puts them up at 4 elims now, and they're just playing with house money.
Yeah, 4 HP though. Peterbot barely surviving. And that's the blessing and the curse of the slurp water there down below is, yes, you can use it to regenerate HP and shield, but it's going to give away those audio visuals. There's no chance of him hiding in to survive. And the aggression that they have, again, you're seeing them go across Slurpy Swamp constantly, north, south, east, west. They're just keeping themselves in a progression mode of constantly getting eliminations. And I almost think you see that in the feed. If you're second place, third place, fourth place, or anybody else looking to catch up, and you see Peterbot, Poyo, you know you're going to have to start getting active.
It's demoralizing. I mean, I wouldn't want to put myself in that situation, but neither could I. I'd never make it a finals lobby with that boy. But here you have it. Acorn Bolts on the other side, making the rotate right now. And again, just trusty, you know, getting straight to it, waiting for that end game. Nothing to worry about.
I'm not sure of the entirety of the loot pool. I know there is the double trouble, but then you have the Mythic Havoc here. There are very few weapons in the loadout that can one pump monster. Very few. And Bolts has the one pump monster of the Mythic Havoc. So if he ends up in a fight, he can end it with just one shot. Bolts, I have my eyes locked on you this game, brother.
Yeah, hey, look, one thing's for certain is, you know, Bolts and Acorn are playing this like it is a literal grand finals lobby, and, you know, you can't get rebooted. They are taking their time. They're putting themselves in key positioning, and they are showing up in every single end game. And you got to respect that, because you have a whole bunch of other players really leaning into the fact that, hey, look, let's fight for elims. Let's just push these fights because we can.
Fourth zone here, 30 seconds. It will close. We'll move into the 5th. And this is almost like that danger signal of saying, hey, team, zone's about to be closing soon. Reboots are going to be turning off in the next couple of zones. You have to start being very, very cautious about how you rotate in and around this map. Because if you go down, yes, you do have a chance to reboot before the 7th zone closes them off. But getting not only back into the game, but getting a loadout that you can find success with, that is what's going to be hard. And after all the early game struggles, you see Josh and Yamzo trying to slow things down. They may have weapons in their arsenal, but you see empty item slots and a huge lack of resources.
Yeah, this is desperation at its finest right now. Just trying to really work with what they got at this point. I mean, you gotta count their lucky stars that Cold and Rapid have already moved down and found someone else to fight here, as Light is the one who's under pressure right now. Haven't seen much from this player just yet, but you probably see why. Just having a tough time right now, even fighting off the singular Cold. And he's got the advantage, little as you know. Like, Cold doesn't have much health to work with, and he just turned and burned. I mean, things might be a little bit better.
Yeah, and I saw Vlex go down in the feed, so for Light in the next couple of seconds, it's important that he did create that distance to stay alive, because he was the only one with a chance to get them back into the game. As Cold looking around his POI, they're just trying to find some extra heals here. He does not want to have to use these slurp juices, and that's why he's immediately making his way on over towards that vending machine, so that way he can buy the patch-ups, buy the med kits only if they're needed.
Yeah, that came in just in the nick of time. He was very, very low. If Josh would have been only slightly better, I'm not sure if he would have made it there, but nonetheless, that's Not the reality that we're looking at right now. Still though, they're on the move, burning through these grapple hooks. They must have plenty of work with it. Gold just lasers in on Flex and shuts him down. It's almost as if he knew exactly where he was.
Yeah, and that's gonna be a full-on wipe too. They got lights, they got Flex. So that team is out of the game here early in game 4. 18 teams still up though. And it's usually around zone 8, zone 9, we start to see those teams go down. And it's very, very important you do make it that far because they are going to be dropping. Next thing you know, it's from 18, you blink 15, you blink again 12. And that is where you're able to kind of pick up some of those placement points merely by staying alive. And that's why you see the launch pads really start to come into form. It was Acorn and Bolts first, and then it's Cold and Rapid. So I'm just interested to see who else starts to take that strategy in the second half of the tournament.
Yeah, it was definitely effective. We saw a lot of teams, especially around zone 8 or 9, super shy, timid about going for that high ground and really just exposing themselves for the most part. So plenty of opportunity to take advantage of the strategies at play, but let's lock in with Higgs and Clicks really quickly. What an early game, right? 7 elims, hasn't slowed down since. They have just managed to make their way into the middle of the next zone, and this is looking mighty comfortable for the duo right here.
Yeah, you see them safely farm, making sure nobody's hiding inside, lurking. Just gonna quickly try to hit a 1 pump. I like their approach to this situation. Storm Surge is not a worry at all. Only worry for Clicks and Higgs that I do have if the zone bounces back. You see Steamy Stacks, you see the hill where Paper and Rezi are at. So making a change in rotation like that is not gonna come without risk of its own. As we jump on board, Paper and Rezi, 117 points. Such an impressive day so far for them. We know how good Paper can be, but I want to give credit to Rezi here, putting a lot for somebody that hasn't really had a lot of these moments to shine. I got to give him credit for shining bright today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's just holding his own, but Higgs seems to have found Boyo in the feed, and we get the instant replay here. Take a look at that. Just top-down angle right here, and then tries to shockwave in. Oh, I respect it for sure, but Peterbot manages to somewhat sneak his way out of that. And Boyo does touch down. I saw the health bar there, so he's back in the game. That's going to cost them a lot. Notice what's going to happen. They're going to have to split their heals, possibly weapons, and the materials. I doubt he's able to find anything at this point in the game.
Oh, fun. They still find a way to win. So now
they might try to force a fight here, depending on where this next zone goes. See a replay, a lot of action happening in this game. Agers realizing, hey, he's within reach of that top 2 position. He is 3rd place on that leaderboard. Obviously, winning a game gets you that extra 10 points, first over 2nd place, but an easier way to close the gap is find easy eliminations like that. And you're seeing the advantages of Steamy Stacks. I think I spoke about this in game number 1. If it pulled towards the north, you get free high ground.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what's your take on this? Because they just managed to build this huge base up here as well, so they have a lot of optionality.
Top 2 made it 2 lane.
You don't even have to like take the steamy floaty down. They have the shockwaves. They can crash pad down. You can build and extend it outward on the other side of that. And I think that's what Rapid was kind of doing, scouting ahead on the other side of that stack. You're seeing already those ramps build. They have no plans of coming down anytime soon. And this is really interesting because in our previous 3 games so far, nobody wanted to take high ground in 7th, 8th zone. Now they get a free high ground way far away from shockwave distance as well.
You know, I gotta give credit though to Cold. He just keeps going for height. This time, granted it's given to him on a platter, as Peterbot in the replay right there continues to find eliminations. That's actually a critical one. That's gonna put Boyo possibly back in the game now. You have to assume he has a full loadout to work with right there. So I didn't think I'd say it, but impact frag right there as they find one here in this game. Back to Higgs and Clicks. 8 elims, as we saw. The last one was on to Boyo, putting them in that tough spot as they've crawled their way out of it, though.
Yeah, and look at the backside of the zone, though, and it's going to force Peterbot Boyo. It's going to force Iamzo, even Clicks and Higgs out of position, but he's flying through the stairs. Iamzo, with the help of Clicks and Higgs, an unlikely trio play being made here in the finals of the Reload Elite Series. Iamzo, unfortunately enough, can't even push in to get that loot.
I mean, they're just on a correction course here. Higgs is like, hey dude, didn't I say you're out of this game, buddy? Not so once again. So unfortunate that he didn't even have time to react. That's like one of those weird spots you can't even put a wall, right? Because they have the staircase there.
On the moon.
Unfortunate for him. Cold though.
They launched
Team have to
pad
come
off of
down.
the
No
steamy
one's
stacks.
really got height just yet. Yeah, I was gonna say they're coming off that stack.
Talk about what Acorn and Bolts were doing with the launch pad to get out of render distance. They already started in the clouds before the launch pad was even taken. Now they're higher up, but Peterbot is making things happen. Gets a knock and elimination onto Stiff, trying to get himself the material needed, especially if he's having a solo run. Resi and Paper just trying to stay in front of the zone. Nobody at this point in time really confirming themselves as the team to beat on height.
Yeah, this is a tough one to hold height as well because you don't see a lot of other high structures. There's no mountains around, so shockwaves are going to be devastating to anyone that goes up early. I mean, it's going to be susceptible to an easy break here, but Ritual and Ager say, screw that. We're just going to go ahead and commit to it anyways, and they find themselves looking to go ahead and base up and outwards. We'll see how long that will last them, and we'll see how safe it is making this play right here. Now look at this, going just recommitting to structuring up that base right there, so they have somewhat of a strong foundation. Shadow Virgo though have to make a move. This is a team that was holding on to third place pretty strongly in the first 3 games, with that 4th one now at play here is up in the air, and they've just consistently made these end games. They're very, very good so far as a duo. This might just be their type of game mode.
Yeah, and if any time is going to be the time to close that gap, it is this game here. Peterbot and Poyo down outside of placement points. So the only points they got in this game is through their eliminations. Bolts and Acorn, that's going to be our 2nd place team. Ager's Ritual in the picture-in-picture 3rd place team. And you're seeing on the left all the chaos. Ager's is just putting pressure upon pressure down below onto that 2nd high team, which is Bolts and Acorn. So this is 2nd and 3rd place looking to clash, but then in comes a new challenger. Front side of zone, Virgo and Shadow out of nowhere. Ager's Ritual, they lose their high ground for a second, but they use that time to quickly gain it back. We're moving over towards the steamy stacks where they might be looking to connect.
Yeah, look, and that's the same call I made. You know, pro players recognizing, hey, that's is not safe high ground. Like, it's easy to break, and that's exactly what happened. So it cost them so much more. And Ark and Kanata now say, wait, but this is a structure I can get behind, and they go up and over on top of the stack here. And just like that, they are looking to secure a victory royale. And hey, this is their chance to try to close that huge gap, right? There's a crater between them and everyone else.
Yeah, it looked like Sharkman and Yuz were going up for a moment. Ritual is going up for a moment. Fall damage isn't too much of a worry if you can get inside of the stack, so very less risk compared to most other situations. But Ark and Kanata, once again, land the damage. They send Rituals and Agers packing down below, but they realize we don't have the builds to hold it. Less than 10 for Ark. They drop down. They have no other choice, but in their line of sight, it's Acorn and Bolts out of nowhere. They're battling it out for the high ground, and right now, it's Acorn and Bolts who are on top again.
And they found the knock right there just as we transitioned out for elimination now for Bolts. I mean, you highlighted that shotgun, and it makes you wonder why it's in Bolts' hands. It's because he's going to make the most out of this weapon here. But down to the low ground, Cold and Rapid should not be down and out on the low ground here. This is their drop spot, and somehow things have made a turn for the worse.
Yeah, it's either fall damage or storm. Cold still has shield on him, so nobody really gets that knock, or at least no credit for it, as Higgs picks up its 8th elimination of this game. This is what you have to do when your back is up against the wall. Solo series champion here, looking for a big game, and he's pressuring that team up above. That's I Am and Up, that's Teeks, but he is also has his head on a swivel, realizing there's players all around. I cannot get lost. I cannot tunnel vision at this point in time.
Acorn and Bolts had a 2nd place last game. They're fired up right now. They're coming back, looking to see if they can do something big here. Higgs on the low ground is still cooking with gas right here. He is doing an excellent job putting up the pressure, but hold up. As I say that, I think Bolts actually lost Acorn in the mix, and then he falls to the hands of Virgo and Shadow.
Oh my gosh,
We were just highlighting how consistent they have been, and now Higgs and Clicks have their work cut out for them. They are very low material, but look, what a monster game for them.
Yeah, this is how you move up that leaderboard. This is how you start to build that confidence. They're one of 2 duos left in this game. There's also 2 solos running around that could play disruptors. Rapid being one of them, but he has no builds. You're seeing him trying to mantle up and dodge everything, but he rolls right into the palm of Clicks' hands. He gets back-to-back eliminations at that. Yuz falls as well. Clicks continues to scramble around, realizing I need time for the siphon to actually work. Higgs is going to buy him that time. He tries to grapple up, trying to land the shots. One knock's going to come through, but it's Clicks and Higgs who both fall out of nowhere. It's Virgo and Shadow that steal away the win.
Not
Virgo
staying
and
focused.
Shadow are the duo to look out for right now. They had an excellent performance coming out of the heats and then just showing up right here in the final moments for a victory royale in game number 4. Zeke, I mean, you have to wrap your head around this. They've been around for so long. What else do they got for us?
This is what I was talking about earlier, right? MDF is finding those opportunities. This is an 8-game format, right? You just have to, even if you have bad games, just say, look, this is a brand new game. We are trying to qualify to EWC. We need to go. Last game for them, 11th place with 2 elims. Now they go out of game number 4 with a victory royale, placement points, elimination points. They are going crazy, and now they're at the halfway point. This is good. This is momentum. We've got some.
Oh man, I feel like this is very, very scary for the leaderboard right now. Right, we saw our top 2 teams that game kind of fumble, and now one of these trailing teams is going to pick up a huge win like that. And awesome to see Shadow back in the mix. And I feel like this name, we always kind of see it in FNCS Final. Now we're seeing it over here in Reload as well. Great to see them get a win.
Yeah, it's a name that we constantly see, but never really give the credence that it deserves. And Shadow and Virgo have now finally showed to everyone, hey, there's a reason that we qualified. There's a reason that we're here, and we're going to make you work for that 1st and 2nd spot. And honestly, Zeke, I'm really excited to see the leaderboard because things might have shaken up a little bit.
We will. I'm not gonna spoil anything. We'll get to it when we get to it. But yes, I definitely think with this performance, this is really good for Shadow and Virgo, right? Because ultimately, with 4 games left to go, we just need to string together a couple more eliminations like this, and we could be looking to fight for one of those 2 spots going on through to the EWC. Congratulations to them once again.
Okay.
But I will say, before we take a look at the leaderboard, we're gonna go to a break. First, I know, we're gonna go to a break. When we return, we'll have that leaderboard for you, so stay tuned. We'll see you right after this.